Sam, and welcome to the second video in the series on how to read astrology charts consistently and scientifically. It's also going to show you how to use this science of spirituality to improve your life and the lives of everyone you know. Sounds pretty good, huh? So, as promised in today's training, we're going to get down and dirty and show you the important principles and get you on the fast track to becoming a scientific astrologer rather than a hit and miss astrologer. So you no longer have to rely on hunches, guesses, assumptions, or confusing methods. In this video, we're going to be deepening your foundation about how to read astrology charts consistently and scientifically so your success is guaranteed, and how to engineer that success over and over again. So you're no longer, again, a confused hit or miss astrology student. So be honest with me. You have just been snacking on astrology videos, haven't you? Taking little bites here and there from many sources. Hey, I get it. You love astrology and you're insatiably curious about it. You're inspired by the universe and the divine wisdom flowing through life. And you hope beyond hope that one day someone or something will show up to make sense of it for you. Well, guess what? It just did. This P5 course has literally been the answer to the prayers for many people just like you who love astrology and want to learn. As I've said before, more than 200 graduates have passed through the school since 2013, and they became certified astrologers by spending just 2 to 3 hours a week at their convenience in the P5 certification course. So, in today's video, again, we're going to drill down deep into the depths. And here's the thing, if you take that same energy that you spend randomly gathering and snacking and focus it on a structured method, your progress will be rapid. In fact, just stick with me for a few videos and notice how much more depth and clarity enters your astrology world. You'll see very soon that it's possible for you to be a savvy scientific astrologer. And it begins today, as I'm about to show you a few of the important principles. Then later I'm going to show you how to use those principles in what I call principle stacking so your success is guaranteed, and how to engineer that success over and over again so you're no longer, again, a confused hit or miss astrology student. You will see exactly how that works in today's video training, so you can know what to say in all astrological situations. And we're going to get to these principles directly from the sage Parashara again. So you want to stay tuned, because you'll also learn how to apply this in your life, not just your astrology chart or someone else's chart. Then, in future videos, I'm going to show you how to take this principle stacking and connect it with the precise methods and calculations so you can make scientific predictions. You know, the truth is, nothing makes me happier than to see my students evolve from uncertainty and confusion to confidence and purpose. And I bet you can relate to feeling at times a little embarrassed to speak up about astrology and how much you like it. Maybe people around you think you're kind of weird because you believe in astrology and you're not really sure how to stop them from rolling their eyes as you talk about these things very, frankly, unscientifically. But imagine the looks on their faces when you can actually explain what astrology is, specifically, rather than in some disconnected way. Because you have to understand something. The reason they are rolling their eyes and maybe even dismissing you a little bit is because you really don't understand it. You believe in it. And that's a big part of the problem. Astrology is not a belief system. It's not a religion. It's a practice. And like every other practice, the more you practice it, the more you understand it, and then you can actually apply it practically as a practice, not just believe in it in some disconnected way. So the biggest connection that has to be bridged is inside of you, so that it's integrated with you and not just something up there, something that you just believe in. But you see, astrology is something in here. So you see it as the living forces animating all of existence and all of life. I know that you already believe that, but again, you don't know how it's happening. But again, don't worry, that's what this video series is here to teach you. And I'll get to that in a moment, and we will pick up where we left off from the first video when Parashara explained the nature of beings and the order of beings in the cosmos. But one more thing about the difference between practice based on a science and methodology and based on a belief about something. Remember when you were young and you used to sit in the car and watch your parents drive? You used to say to yourself, wow, one day maybe I'll be able to drive. But it seemed like a faraway dream, and maybe it even scared you a little bit because they were doing so many things. They have to turn the wheel a certain way, and there's a gas pedal and a brake pedal, maybe a clutch. And they have to turn the signals on and the lights, and there's all this traffic. So it was not only unknown and confusing, it was even dangerous. But inside you had a belief about what it was to actually drive. And the belief was probably that one day you'll be able to drive too. And then sure enough, perhaps you went to, driver's ed in school, or you started actually driving in your parents' old clunky car, maybe with your dad watching you, making weird faces, making you nervous, maybe in an empty parking lot somewhere. And at first it was very strange. Remember the first time you pressed on the gas pedal and the car lunged forward really quickly? Almost gave you whiplash. But of course, the remedy for that was to slam on the brake equally hard. But then eventually you got used to it. So then rather than one extreme clunky start and stop balanced by another extreme, you got good at it. And your belief about driving was then replaced by the practice of driving. And so now it's no longer a question of whether or not you're able to do it correctly or successfully. Your success with driving at this point is all but guaranteed. You just get in the car, turn the key, and drive. So of course this is an analogy for studying astrology and doing it well. Or actually learning anything well. This is how we learn. We find a methodology that works when we practice it. Of course, driving a car is just sort of manipulating a machine and not that complicated, but other things that are more process intensive take more time. For example, cooking. Let's say making an omelet or scrambling eggs. At first we're just trying to figure out the equipment we need, a pan, butter, eggs, bowl, fork, stove. Then we need to know what order to put those steps in. First, get the bowl, then crack the egg into the bowl, then whisk it with a fork. But imagine doing those steps out of order. Cracking the egg on the counter, then getting a bowl. Again, it seems weird now because you know how to do it. All of these subtleties are important. So the subtleties of heating the pan to a certain temperature, then letting the butter melt first, then bringing it to a certain point, and then flipping it over at a certain time. Again, the first time we tried this, it was a disaster, and the egg wasn't even edible. There were shells in it. But over time, we're not only able to do it well, but we're even able to add our own sort of flair to it and special ingredients, even inject our own personality and style into the recipe. So again, I'm simply referring to the same process when learning astrology. At first, we need to even understand the fact that we need a pan, a bowl, a fork, eggs. This is what we're doing in this video. Gathering the ingredients, or as I would say, the principles. That's like the pan, the egg, the bowl. Next we'll talk about how to arrange those principles, mix them together properly, what's called principle stacking. Then the order in which to use those principles unfold as we mix them together, what's properly called priority and sequence. We don't just do things randomly. That's the fourth P in the P5 method. Then the fifth P is the actual practice, as they say. If you want to make an omelet, you need to break some eggs. And that's literally what we do in the P5 method. After we get everything in line, working together, and then put in the proper sequence, then we do it. So the first video, we actually are just learning about the principle, like why do we want to even make an egg? Well, because we want to eat. That's the purpose. First video and the first P is purpose. Well, we want to eat. Now, if we want to eat eggs, what are the principles and the things that we need to get together? That's what we're going to do in this video. Then how do we stack those principles? How do we use the egg and the bowl together? That's the principle stacking. How do we take what we scrambled and use it with the pan? How do we use the principles? Then what's the proper sequence? We can't do it out of sequence. And then we need to practice it and actually do it. So again, it's like we can explain to someone how to make the egg, and we can say, you do this, you do this, you do this. That's called following a recipe, right? That's what a recipe is. It actually tells you, get this first, here's what you need. It starts with the ingredients. Then do this, then mix it together. But then after you read the recipe, you have to actually practice it. You have to actually do it. Okay, so let's get to the important principles in Brihad Parashara Hora Sastra. So first let's read right from the text itself. It says in chapter 1, verse 18 through 20, it says, Ahamkara is of three classes, in effect, sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic dispositions. Divine class, sensory organs, and the five primordial compounds. And then he says, they are respectively from their said three Ahamkaras. Lord Vishnu, coupled with Sri Shakti, rules over the three worlds. Coupled with Bhu Shakti, he is Brahma, causing the universe. Coupled with Nil Shakti, he is Shiva, destroying the universe. So what does this mean? He's talking about the three gunas and the five elements. These are the 8 creative principles in life. And so they include the 3 gunas first. Again, I'm going to explain all of these. The 5 elements. Then I'm also going to include planets, because we are talking about Vedic astrology, and these principles come down through Lord Vishnu, through the planets, which are emanations of Lord Vishnu. I'm going to put a couple other important principles. One is karma. Very important principle, karma. And then there is also evolution. I'm going to make this a principle because, again, everything is here on an evolutionary process. And we're evolving through our karma, through our experiences. For example, we can't really evolve how to make the omelet until we actually make the omelet, take the actions. That's what karma is. And then the karma is coming down from the planets. The planetary forces are the animating forces of existence, right? And those planets emanate from the gunas and the elements, which I'll just talk about now. And by the way, this also circles back because we evolve, our evolution is actually also through the gunas and elements. So the process of evolution itself takes place through body, mind, and spirit. This is how we evolve consciousness, okay? What I mean to say is that through body, which is our self and our physicality, we then evolve to emotion and feeling, and then that leads us to higher spirit and consciousness. So think about it this way. This is what the 3 gunas are. In Vedic astrology, or in Sankhya philosophy, it's called tamas, rajas, and sattva, as Parashara laid out. Tamas means form and structure. Rajas means emotion and feeling and energy. And sattva means spirit, or that which is beyond just our own self and our own drives and will to survive, which is related to tamas, or our desire to connect that with others that we love, like our family and our relationships. That's more rajasic, and also the world itself. What's beyond that is sattva, which is something that's beyond just this world, that's beyond just our own feelings and emotions about what we have and who we are. So again, look at this as the evolutionary forces in life, right? You're here as a physical being, and you have an identity that revolves around this sense of separateness. But that sense of separateness and identity is meaningless without others, rajas, to enjoy it with, to get a sort of reflection back from. That's rajas. But then eventually, you and your partners and your family and your children, even the culmination of you and other people in the world, is limited. You have to look to something higher, which is sattva, which are the things that are larger than just our life on earth and our feelings and our emotions about it, right? And so Parashara lays out how the Sankhya philosophy, or the Vedic teachings, underscore and show this evolution. This is why I use evolution as a principle, because we're evolving. Now, it's often the sort of convention in Indian thinking to see that with the 3 gunas, tamas is like, that's like the bad one. It's darkness, ignorance, fear, and it can be that. And rajas is also, a bad one. It's about desire and passion, and there's a way to see it that way. And sattva is the good one. But the more mature we get, the more we understand things in a nuanced way, we realize that each guna is exactly appropriate for what it is. For instance, your physical body is tamasic. Again, we take this for granted, but we've incarnated with a physical body. You're here with a physical form first. That's the tamasic guna. Now, it doesn't just mean your physical body, but it is also actually the things that the actions that you perform through the physical body, which is what implies your karma. Okay, you evolve through your actions. Like I said, you can think about and read about wanting to make an omelet, but you don't learn it until you actually perform those actions. You don't actually evolve your understanding. So the way to use the omelet analogy is you have this idea that, wow, it would be great if I could, cook an omelet, or I could make something. This is sattvic. It's coming down from it's an inspiration, right? It doesn't have to do with you or other people or something you want. It's just something that inspires you, right? You're inspired to, let's say, make an omelet, to cook something. So you then look out into the world, which is the rajasic guna, to find the information and find the recipe book and find the thing, right? But then you don't actually learn how to make the omelet or evolve this process beyond some idea you have or some information you've gathered until you do it. You have to